throughout the game, and also with just the quick spring. Is there any possibility of maybe them going to a couple extra roster spots out of the gate? I don't think that's the case now, but can they?
You mean baseball?
Yeah, baseball.
Yeah, I think that's being discussed. I think I would suspect that's going to happen. I mean, I can't speak to that definitively, but I think that's the idea in April to expand the rosters. I think that's being obviously discussed in earnest.
With Raimel, he's an outfielder that can move to
Sure.
various positions.
All three.
All three. Do you look at him as part of the center field mix, especially with
Sure.
Bryant in here?
Sure. Yes.
Is center field kind of open comp? What do you competition? Or you
I-
have the DH
yeah.
thing. Going
Sure,
too.
and I think that I mean he's entrenched in our outfield mix. We're obviously with Charlie, with Kris, with Garrett, with Sam, Raimel, Yonathan. Those are outfielders, and we'll see how it shakes out at the end, and even during the season.
Yeah.
Right.
Also, another guy I wanted to talk about was Connor Cherry, who gave you a big lift last season.
Yes.
When he was there, he ended up getting hurt at the end. How intriguing is that bat? I mean, he showed some power last year, and how much does that? Do you feel like that helps the depth picture?
Yeah. I think the thing that stood out for us, and his minor league track record, and our scouts and our homework on him, like all teams did. I mean, there's been a quality at bat as a minor league player, and I think last year, given the starts and the at bats that we were able to give him, he showed that. He showed what he can do, and I totally agree. When he came and got into the lineup, it sort of coincided with Brendan at the same time, and that's sort of when our offense picked up. Our offense was a little slow to start the year. We had some guys get off to tough starts, with the exception of Mac. Mac got off to a nice start. But a lot of other guys did. Diaz, Crone, Trevor hung in there. I think Charlie sort of hung in there. But when Connor and Brendan got into the lineup, that's when it, I think, as a whole, became more productive. And again, we talked about that a lot. We talked about, your position player group, you need 6, 7 guys swinging the bat well, because there's going to be a couple guys, in a given, 8-man lineup last year with the pitcher, are going to be down. It's tough when you have 4 or 5 guys not hitting and only 2 or 3 hitting. And we sort of had that early in the year.
With him being a fielder, first baseman, have some veteran guys there. What are the things
He can play right field too.
Okay. And so, what are the things he can do to get on the field, especially if that bat's going? It's hard to turn away from the bat.
He'll get on the field. He got on the field last year.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a lot of different ways to get on the field. Designated hitter. Can play left. Play right. Can play first. It's rare that a player plays 162 games. So when there's a couple players who don't play 162 games, or mostly all of them won't, somebody else got to play. Like when Charlie doesn't start, or when Crone doesn't start, when Brian doesn't start, when Hilliard doesn't start, when Hampson doesn't start, when Tapia doesn't start. Somebody's got to start for those guys. And it could very well be Connor. And if Connor starts, might be if Hampson might not start, or Hilliard might not start, or you know what I'm saying? Do I got to go through every player?
I don't.
Okay, I think you got it. But I sort of know what you're getting at. It's a fair question. It's a fair ask.
Especially if it's not that regularly, the quality of that bat.
Still good.
Yeah.
That's now you're getting
Is
there.
that the thing that maybe
Very appealing. Good at bats. There are guys that, to bring out the best of them, need regular at bats. The guys who are valuable, who maybe don't get 500 or 600 at bats, they maybe get 300, 400. but those are really good. And I think he's capable. Good head. Prepares. Calm.
Rewind.
Intense. You didn't write that one down. You wrote calm. You didn't write intense. Did you write it?
That one.
Oh yeah.
That one
You do
is-
both. Thanks, RD.
That one is deep.
Okay.
Intense.
Rewinding to Raimel, I think he's more comfortable in center field. Is he? Can we talk about his defense? Is he
I
better
think-
a center fielder than
I think
Raimel?
you'll find that most players are comfortable in center.
Yeah.
Outfielders tell me that's the easiest position to play
Okay.
because the ball's coming right at you.
Yeah.
I don't know. A lot of people think it's harder because there's more ground to cover, but you ask outfielders, if you're to ask them, hey, what's easier, right, center? They'll all say center.
Yeah.
I think he's incrementally improved over the time that I've been here. He's put in a lot of work, and he's made some really good plays. Right? You can pull up some video of previous seasons, and especially the ball coming in, sinking line drive, short pop up, and he's come in and made some diving spectacular plays, and he made some good throws too, throwing some guys out at the plate, throwing some guys out at third base. He's made some plays.
Late in the game, you have a tight lead. You want a defensive lineup. Like, who's your center fielder? Is Daza still sort of the best center?
Daza's probably fundamentally our best outfielder. Jumps, breaks, reads, routes, arm. Hampy's, I think Hampy's pretty solid. Sam has closing speed, and he rangy. I would say, Daza, Hampson, Hilliard are our best defensive outfielders. If you throw everything together,
Gotcha.
right?
What does your leadoff picture look like? I know that when Tapia was going well, that was a threat to get a guy to second base when he came in. When he wasn't, Joe came in and hit some home runs.
Yeah.
How are you looking at trying to balance?
Yeah, we don't have that one guy, right? We don't have that in a traditional sense, the prototypical leadoff hitter that one would define from a generation ago or even recently. I think what we're looking for is probably, again, we'll bunch our best hitters at the top of the order because they're going to get the most at bats. If you go the analytic route, that's sort of the way to do it, right? On base percentage, the guys who get on base the most at the top of the lineup.
Do you look at maybe, depending on how it all shakes out, do you look at throwing Charlie back up there?
Maybe,
for,
yeah.
for a stretch
We've
or
already
something?
talked about that. Connor Joe, we've tried Hampy there a number of times. I still think there's some upside to Garrett, right? Because of the stolen base component, you like that threat of the steal, especially in the first inning if it happens.
With the 9-man lineup, I wonder if he works better even at the bottom, going back to
The old
the
double leadoff.
especially if the
Yes.
leadoff guy has a
I
problem.
like where I love now we're talking baseball. Yes. Yeah. Double leadoff.
Well, but
Because a lot of people, again, you hear a lot of people now, and it's, you look at your lineup as a circle as opposed to a straight line, right? Straight line, like leadoff hitter to number 9, then you go back to leadoff hitter, straight line. I think you go like this now. That's how a lot of people are describing how to. And if you do the extrapolate, the number of at bats that the leadoff hitter gets, the 2-hole hitter gets, in an American League lineup with a DH. That's why in an American League lineup you always saw, like you hit Trout 2, they So, I mean, we'll put it together.
You touched on it before, the idea of Hampson that, with his speed, is that, as important now in today's game is having.
If you have it, it's important. It's a weapon. Speed's a weapon. It depends on, I think there's a difference between real speed that's impactful and, hey, the guy can run. Ricky Henderson was a weapon. Vince Coleman, Juan Pierre. Guys who can really run. That is a huge weapon. If you have a couple of them, what a weapon, right? Because it's more so than just an advancement of 90 feet on a stolen base. It's the pressure that is applied to the defense. It's a pressure that is applied to the pitcher. Every pitch, thinking about that guy or that other guy or those three guys that a team might have. The catcher, his pitch selection. Outfielders going runners going first to third. Infielders on a ground ball that they have to move a little bit. This guy gets down the line. I mean, it's always there, and it's important. I mean, it's that balance between power is analytically said, hey, listen, if you don't hit homers, you're not going to win, right? We've read all the studies, right? And that's extrapolated over thousands of games and thousands of at-bats. Yeah, for sure. But in one game, seventh game of the World Series, first game of the season, whatever, just any one game. I mean, speed can win you a game. The 80s Cardinals could really run. All those guys. Coleman, McGee, Smith, Herr, Pendleton. They could run. Van Slyke.
You've been, I think, reluctant in the past a little bit to build in a platoon. You have some right-left options, especially in center field.
Right.
Is this a possibility?
Yes.
And more than just situational, but like sort of,
Like
more regularly sort of kind of thing.
Yes.
Okay. Anywhere else?
And you mean in center? Or
Well, I meant mostly in center, but in general, I guess.
Yeah.
The center is just the first one that came to mind.
Yeah. What happens there, though, really in a straight platoon, that means that, you have probably 3 or 4 guys who are truly 162 game players. Where those guys stay in the lineup every day and you have a platoon in left, you have a platoon at second, or whatever it might be. But now the way teams are using their rosters and, mixing and matching lineups and trying to get the best matchups against a starting pitcher. Sometimes platoons, like strict hard platoons, sort of go out the window.
Yeah.
There might be a left-handed pitcher whose splits are reverse, kills righties. Doesn't make sense to put a heavy right-handed lineup in there. Play a ton of lefties. Pitcher with a changeup, or pitcher with a fastball he can't command at one side. But right, it makes sense. And there's a lot of those pitchers that have drastic reverse splits.
Especially lefties with changeups.
Yeah. Like Jamie Moyer, if you go old school with Moyer, right? Teams would just stack righties against him, thinking, hey, listen, soft lefty, boom, we're going to get righties and we're going to hit a bunch of pulled home runs. Never happened. Change away.
In the 8th inning.
Yeah. So.
Can I ask a philosophical question here?
And then we'll wrap it up.
Okay.
I love wrapping up on philosophical.
Positional
I love when you're a deep thinker.
Yes, I know. Well, positional versatility
Yes.
that they talk about in the game, has it actually at times been a detriment. Two reasons I bring that up, like the Dodgers going out and getting Freddie Freeman. It looks like now with, Turner and Short, Muncy on the second, it's a more stable lineup and they're not always changing. That may help their defense. And so I was thinking about that. Then I think it was 1 a.m. I was looking at Pete Rose's stats. He was a second baseman, outfielder, first baseman, third baseman. But almost every season he played well over 100 games at one position and wasn't constantly moving around.
Right.
And you have a Kris Bryant here that I could see him filling in at third in DH. But as far as being on the field, is it better to even a guy that versatile to try to keep him in one position for your overall defense?
Yes.
Do you?
You gonna ask me why?
Yeah.
Is that the,
No,
that was the
and
answer. The answer is yes.
Yeah. Do you look to do that and why?
I do try to keep those guys who are built to play every day. Kris Bryant, Charlie Black, Ryan McMahon, Brendan Rodgers, CJ Cron. I think it's best if you try to keep them at one position. And there are guys who are very capable of moving around the diamond, right? And they'll perform. But I think it's better if they can stay in one spot. Does it better the team to have them move at times? Yes. Kris was such a talented player that he was moved a lot because the team needed him to move, right? The Cubs needed him to move. And I think the Giants last year needed him to move. So it's a lot of that is team related and also the players' mental fortitude and wherewithal to be able to handle moving and be fine with it and get it and understand it.
I can't remember.
But I do think it's better if a position player can stay in one spot. Now, the other side of that coin is there are players that you want to get in the lineup, and for you to maximize their at-bats, they have to move. Tony Phillips, old school. More modern player, Ben Zobrist. And there's others.
Tony Taylor.
What a versatile player for the Phillies.
What a player.
Right? What a ball player. There's obviously been others, but and that's how they made their mark, by playing a lot, but playing a lot of different positions. If you do that with a lot of guys, it doesn't work.
Yeah,
I mean, it works, but it doesn't at the same time.
I've seen too many good position players in the modern game not move around too much, I feel.
Right.
DJ LeMahieu in New York drops a pop-up in the ALCS playing first base when he's the best second baseman of our generation.
There's, I don't know this fellow, Chris Taylor, a lot. Met him at the All-Star game. He's sort of one of those guys now in the modern era.
Yeah.
What a player. Right? Moved around, almost every position we've seen him. But if you were to ask any player, they would say, I prefer one.
Yeah.